guys, a big welcome back to my channel. I hope you're all doing really well. Welcome to another Practice With Me video. Today is going to be Capriccio Arabe by Francisco Tárrega, which is one that I've been wanting to do for absolutely ages and just never got around to it until now. I am going to apologise just very quickly for the wind outside because it is quite loud and it's also quite rainy and we're having lots of storms at the moment in the UK. So that is, that's what that is. I'm gonna have no choice now to introduce you to Sadie because she will jump up and down on the chair. So this is my new practice partner, Sadie. Anyway, moving on from Kat, I really hope she behaves because at the moment she is in the kitchen sink. So I'm just gonna have to leave it there. So I actually recorded this this piece for a video I released 5 years ago on YouTube. So if you haven't heard the piece, then do go and check it out. I'll put the video somewhere here or somewhere. But yeah, it's an absolutely great piece. I also recorded it for my album, which was released last year. But we recorded the album in October 2020, so it's actually been a long time since I've played it. It's one of those pieces I keep coming back to and then leaving and then coming back to. What I'm going to do is basically just go through and try to pinpoint any areas that need more attention or need particular things doing to them. Trying to basically just improve it and just talk you through the things really that I tend to think about when I come back to this piece over and over again. We're in 3/4. As you probably know, there's a bit of a kind of introduction to this piece. It's more free than the rest of the piece because obviously then we get the bass line that comes in eventually. We have... You can hear the cat eating, sorry. So let's just take it from the beginning. So... This high bit here is obviously a bit that, you know, is quite difficult to do. I think the most important thing there really is just have a really, like, make sure that your left hand is parallel to the fretboard as much as possible. Because if you're like this, I'll try and zoom in, but if you're like this, you're gonna really struggle to get the fourth finger. And that's a mistake that a lot of people make with the left hand technique, is that if you're not parallel to the fretboard like this, it's more like this, it really does kind of hold you back from trying to reach other frets. So let's try again. So it also, if you're slurring these two, it makes it a really clean slur if you've got a straighter left hand as well. I'm not going to take too much time there actually. I think maybe I did at first. I want this to really like sparkle. It can't be. You need it to sound, I don't know. I always imagine like a puff of smoke and then like a wizard coming up or something. I know that sounds really silly, but I don't know, it kind of like, that's just what it makes me think of. Get that cleaner. And then obviously the rest of that bar. Probably roll that one. Don't roll it first, baby, and then I'll roll it on the second time. Cool. I don't think it's really necessary in this part to have the really fast. There are places like later down the line that we can do that and show off if we want to. But I think here you're kind of just introducing people to, you know, the sound of what's to come. Oh yeah, the next bit is my favourite bit. Let's see if I can remember how to play it. Big rest on that one. Maybe not that much. And then we're in. Okay, so I think, unlike before, to be honest, in this bar, with all the semiquavers and demi-semiquavers, I don't think the timing is like ridiculously important. Like, you know, the last lot of demi-semiquavers or whatever you want to call them. That doesn't have to be completely to the book. I just think it has to sound really dramatic when you get down to the... And then you have that big slide. It just has to sound dramatic, and it has to get gradually quicker. Yeah, I think that's what matters really, is like the drama. Okay, so a little bit of vib, that's maybe a bit SpongeBob-y. I think I've used that term in other videos, but it's I think it's quite accurate. You know, maybe really quite a slow vib. You don't want it too much. Okay, and then we're in. So you want to lean on that B flat, sorry. And then we're into our kind of 2-bar intro to the melody. So yeah, blocking basses, maybe that's something that I definitely didn't do right. So for example, when we have... It's quite easy to block those basses because you have the open D, and then as soon as you play that F natural, you put your thumb back on that open D, open A, and then do rest stroke with your thumb, and then you block the open A. So that's not too bad. The bass line there is the most interesting thing really, so I think that needs to be louder than the accompaniment, which goes without saying really, but... Cool, and then we're in. One thing to actually say here, if you're learning this piece as well, just make sure that you don't start those 2 bars in particular. When we go into 4/4, just make sure that you don't start them at a speed that you're not comfortable with, because that literally is the thing that leads you on to the rest of the piece, and the rest of the piece is going to start at that speed. So if you start... You've got to be prepared to do the rest of the piece like, you know, that fast. Whereas if you start quite slow, there's room to kind of grow with it. You can always push it a little bit and pull it back. And I think I prefer playing this a little bit slower anyway. I don't know, it's personal preference, but yeah. So anyway, let's go straight in. That sounded horrible because it's right next to my microphone. Okay, yeah, there's quite a lot of stuff going on here in terms of like the what do you call it? Like just the musicality and interpretationally. I think, you know, you've got to accent that second melody note, the second A. And then this sort of ornament here, little trill. It's so important that that doesn't sound like a triplet. It doesn't sound, you know, like da 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 da. It has to give emphasis to the B flat because that's the dissonant note, because you have the A in the bass here. That's what needs to be brought out, and then it resolves. So there. Yeah, I think the second one was better. And then we have the little decoration. Cool. Whoops. I don't like to do the slur here. But maybe I should, I don't know. I don't do it there either. I think it's important if you're gonna omit a slur, if you're not gonna do it, I think the best thing that you can do is to try and emulate it a little bit, you know, because the reason you're not doing it isn't musically, like it's not because you don't think that the second note should be quieter, because in a slur, naturally, even if you can get a really clean slur, like, it's still, I don't know, for me, I just don't really like, I prefer the sound of it if I try to sort of, you know, emulate that by plucking it, but the second note that you slur to is always going to be quieter. So if you do decide to not do the slur and to pluck them, the second note you should really play a little bit quieter so that you still get the intentions of what, you know, the composer intended. But yeah, anyway. Sorry, the cat just moved the camera. Basically just add vibrato, I think, wherever you can in this piece, to be honest. So for example, here, whoops. I don't know, I like to do it there. Very out of tune again. So. Don't do all the slurs there either. I do these two. But then pluck that one. Yeah, and then we have this big fermata on the E flat. So I really like to stay on that for like a long, long time. Nice little slide up to it. Bit of vib on there, why not? And then we start, okay, so then this is the bit that you can kind of show off in if you want to. Yeah, not the same as the last time, is it? Yeah, don't miss the, there's a tenuto mark on the D, which is next to the B flat. So if you're going to pull back anywhere, it should probably be there. So you kind of, there's a chell mark in, so basically just get faster throughout it, and then I think that's the time to really pull back. So let's have a go. I'm just going to basically now go through, because it repeats that section, it completely repeats. So I'm going to go through the whole section again, try to play the whole thing, and then see where we end up and see what there is that I'm still not completely happy with, because there's bound to be something. So I don't know if I want to do the slide. Do I want to? No, I'm going to save the slide for the last, when it repeats literally for the final time. It was better than the first time, I think, but there are a few places, well, the main thing being that it sounded exactly the same as when I played it the first time, but a little bit better. So I don't want it to sound exactly the same. I think I need to change some of the dynamics. Something that I do really like to do, actually, is once you've played... I like to go Ponticello a little bit on this. It's just exactly the same, that it just repeats. So it's really nice to create that kind of like echoey, darker side to it, I think. So that's one thing. Maybe I will do that on the first time, or no, I won't do that on the first time, I'll do that on the second time. I think that'd be nice, because both times probably a little bit overkill, don't want to overdo it yet. I think something that I didn't do the first time, or probably wouldn't do the first time, is go slightly tasto. So you have these two bars that connect you to the repeat. like sort of semi-tasto, so more above the fretboard a little bit, and a little bit quieter, so get a bit of more of like a sweet sound. Oops. And then I need to go further pon. I forgot about that. Okay. Taking too much time. I'm like really milking it too much. But that's the beauty of your practice session. You can just do that and then rein it in. I think because we've just had this, I think maybe it's better to kind of not overdo one of them. You know, like the first time I did the Achel quite a lot and then slowed down a lot. So I think maybe this time should be a little bit more stable, because then it leads us into a different section. So... there's quite a lot of, what I should have said before as well, is that there's quite a lot of rests in between different bass notes and different accompaniment, you know, so it's not always massively exaggerated. It's not something that a lot of people do. Obviously it's what's written, but you'll find that a lot of people play and let them all over ring. I think sometimes it's quite nice to have a little bit in the middle, you know, so you're not doing completely... I think that sounds a little bit too much, but potentially maybe... So that's still the right rhythm, it's just not overdoing it so that it's really, really noticeable, I think. Anyway, next section, so we have, I'll do a bar into it, so... So slow down a little bit, and then I'll see how far I can get through this section actually, because I've not, yeah, this is the bit that looks most unfamiliar to me, so turn page. Okay, just until there, cool. Yeah, this bit's I find it more difficult than the last bit. All the barriers make it a little bit like difficult for the left hand in some places. So let's have another go. It wasn't as clean as I'd like it to be. The trills, yeah, I might not manage that within this practice session, but I will get them cleaner. Yeah, so that is something that's troubling me a little bit, so... That shift is quite difficult. That's how I want it, but that was a fluke and it's not going to happen again. Nope. Yeah, doing that over and over again will kind of sort it, I think. Yeah, I'm not going to bore you with that, but I'll do it a few more times. So that nice bit of Ponticello takes us to the repeat of what we just played. So. That can be a bit of a tricky one to finger actually. And then your fourth finger can get that harmonic on the D string. Yes, okay. So then we have all these arpeggios. Yeah, we need to do something with those. I say we. I definitely need to do something with those because they sound really boring at the moment, so. I think that sounds most natural, so doing the first two, sort of descending, ascending quite loud, then pulling it back a lot on the next two, because then we pull back here. And we need to get quieter there anyway. So yeah, I'll do that. And then we have the chromatic scale, so up to the major section, which is everyone's favourite section. Yes, timing on this bit actually, that's what I was going to say. So when you get to these two bars, a lot of people struggle with getting the timing of the chromatic scale, purely because you have, well, where these A's land. So the chromatic scale doesn't start on the beat. You know, it starts, you've got. So it's a little bit more difficult to hear. Think of that A as a strong one, but don't play it as a strong one. Think of it as a strong one, and then you'll kind of be in time, because you want to count the chromatic scale in groups of 4. Or at least for now you do, until we get to the group of 5. So, oh, so up tune. Oops. Is that how I fingered it? I think. Yes, okay, that's how I did it. Yeah, so the easiest fingering I think for this chromatic scale, so you go up in groups of, well, you go up in first position until the G string, so in a group of 4, another group of 4, and then you've got a group of 5. So for the group of 5, you shift your fourth finger, and well, your whole hand really. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and then you're in the next bar. So the whole thing would look like this, so. So that was quite obviously a group of 5 at the end. I think it's quite important, but also, you know, you've got, it says molto crescendo, so you want to get a lot louder throughout. Until you get to the major section, and then you kind of got a big sound. But I think you also kind of need to have a bit of movement throughout the scale as well. And then you get to the group of 5 and it doesn't feel unnatural. You know, if you played, I think you haven't built to it, and you haven't, I don't know, kind of had that movement before it and pushed to it, if that's a way of saying it. Hopefully you get what I mean, anyway. Cool, so time for the major section. So I'll do the same with this one. I'll just kind of go until I stop. The thing with this bit is just making it like really I hate to use the word dramatic again, not everything's dramatic, but as in it's quite a big moment, you know. You've literally gone from we had such a strong melody in D minor, and then we have the same thing but in the major. it just has to feel like, oh, you know, like you've reached the top of a mountain, and you've got all like the nice scenery to look at and stuff, as cheesy as that sounds. Yeah, not loads to say about it other than the fact that as long as it sounds, as long as you've got that feeling behind it and it feels quite powerful, I think that's the main thing. And then later you've got time to kind of make it more, I don't know, like play it softer and have that more kind of sweet vibrato-y kind of feel with it. And I'll just play it once more just from the chromatic scale so you can hear the build up. So so this bit here, you could very, very easily play that really straight, you know, kind of like a... But I think it kind of loses something if you don't give that first D sharp a bit of vibrato and let it, you know, have some space. Because after all, we're in D major and we've got this D sharp. So maybe a bit too much. Use some rubato there, I think, when you have... And then the harmonic. So same thing here, just, I think, use some rubato, you know, push it forward a little bit, and then obviously you have the rit at the end. You definitely need some vibrato on this top F sharp. It's such a beautiful, beautiful note. Use that open E to get back down to second position. So oh, that was a nice trill. Page turn. Yeah, these little connecting bits, I think that's the last time we actually have it in this piece and in this section. So the first time we play it, it's kind of, you know, fine, whatever, it's taking us to the next melody. But I think here, because it's the last time, I really like to pause on the C sharp a little bit. And give it that kind of, that feel of like, it kind of almost tipping over and then you're going back into it. Again, vibrato, I don't know how, somebody can count in the comments how many times I've said the word vibrato in this video, but you know it's one of my favourite things about playing the guitar. But yeah. Really dramatic bit. Just take all the time in the world on that, I think, because it kind of just comes out of nowhere and you kind of just like, again, left to just look at like a nice view or something, you know, you go all the way up and then it's like, oh wow, and then you have to take the time before you come back down, otherwise you get, and it's like you don't even notice it, you don't actually notice how beautiful that can sound. So I think as well, just because you're going all the way up to the 12th fret does not mean that you have to like have this big crescendo. I think the higher up the fretboard you go, it actually sounds nicer if you bring down the volume a little bit. If I were to go, it just sounds too much. It's so much, like the sound is so much harsher than if you were to go, block the harmonic. You know, you kind of need that round sound on that note for sure. So bit of vib again. The vibrato also makes the note last longer as well, so it's not just that I'm like being really, really over the top. Or maybe I am. Same with all these notes. You're still quite high, so they need to be really delicate, I think. Got to rest on that one as well. If you play it without the vib, oh, it's just like eating away at me inside, like it needs to have that. Yeah, don't forget that triplet here. Ignore the tuning again. Molto rit. Slow down, slow down, slow down. And then that E with the second finger, well, I play it with the second finger anyway, all the way back, leads to this D. And then we have that accompaniment that we also had in the minor, but we have it in the major. And then we go minor. And I think that D in this bar, because just when you play the D, you don't know that it's going to be major or minor. But I feel like it just sounds minor. Like if you play it in a way, so when we play this one, the major one, sorry. You come down just a tiny bit and you can have, it's not a harsh sound, it's not really loud or, you know, or aggressive or anything, but you just have a different timbre. That's a really horrid word to use, but you just have a different timbre to it, and it automatically sounds like it's going to be different. And we've heard it in the minor key before, so it kind of feels like, oh, it could be minor again, you know. And then here I like to do the slide from the F to the A, so. I think because this is the last time we're going to hear it, and we've heard this maybe in this key twice already at the beginning, I really like to just take more time over it and almost like it's broader and more sort of like you're thinking about it more, and you kind of, you know, it's the last time you're going to hear it. It needs to be quite, what am I trying to say? Like almost like a statement, like a closing statement in a way. You know, little things like making the melody stand out even more, just very, very slightly, making it rounder, making it more kind of like almost thoughtful. Is that the word I'm looking for? Maybe. Maybe I did an extra bass note there. I don't know whether I did, I can't remember. But yeah, I quite like to have loads of vib on that top note, because you just, it's, you know, like I said, it's like the closing statement. Just make sure that you say what you want to say before the piece ends, basically. Maybe a bit too much. Rest on that one. I'm coming further and further up here as well, because we're in first position. You can afford to come much more tasto than you would if you were playing up here, because it's all about how far away from each other your hands are. So if I really wanted to, you know, you could even go, and you get a really like gloopy, chocolatey sound, which is quite nice for this bit actually, I think. And these harmonics, I think you have to be careful with, not too loud and quite balanced. You want to hear not too much of the A, but also the A has to be in there. There we go. The D sits on top. Same with this chord. Yeah. Again, you could even put tiny, tiny, tiny bit of vib on the chord, and it does make it sustain a little bit longer. It gives it a little bit of a different sound, you know, it's not just completely sat where it is. Anyway, that is it. We made it to the end of the piece. Thank you so much for sticking around if you did. If not, then shame on you. If you have any questions, just feel free to comment down below. If you are interested in learning more pieces like this, then on Patreon I have a new series called Learn It Live, and that is basically a monthly live stream of a piece chosen by you. So anybody on Patreon can vote for the piece that we do. And yeah, it's going really well so far, I think. But if that's something you're interested in, I'll put the link down below. And yeah, thank you so much for watching. I hope you have a good rest of your day.